And we have a winner, and the overall men's British champion for 2006, to present it with the trophy from Steve Riddick and Paula Birkinshaw. Our overall champion is
DJ Troy Brown.
What's going on, everybody? Coach Troy Brown, IFBB Pro, apexphysiques.ca, your go-to resource for physique development. Today I want to talk to you about, a lot of people don't know this actually, it's been very quiet for a lot of years. 2006, October, UK BFF, British Championships, I turned pro, and I did it against someone that's world renowned in the bodybuilding industry and culture, and his name is James Lewis. For those that don't know who James Lewis is James Flex Lewis. So originally I wanted to do a video on the movement patterns I used to attain my pro card, but more importantly how I was able to beat somebody that actually turned out to be 7 times Mr. Olympia. My story: in 2005, year before, I did a qualifier for nationals, and I beat the winner of the UK BFF that year, who turned pro, was Paul Delahaye, and I beat him in the qualifier, and he got 3rd. And then 3 weeks later, I did my heavyweight debut and competed against Paul Delahaye in the heavyweights, and I ended up getting 4th, and Paul won the overall and the heavyweights, obviously. So I went back to the drawing board. I originally remember going back to the drawing board and thinking about driving home from the arena back to London, down that motorway as we call it, and the highway, and thinking, what movements am I going to do now for a whole year? I've got a year to basically place higher. That was the goal, right? To place higher in the heavyweights. Wasn't really thinking about the pro card, but the goal was to crack the top 3. So anyway, I went back to the drawing board with my coach at the time, Harold Maroulier. For those that don't know who he is, Harold was again a former pro and lives in England now, originally from South Africa. So I went back to doing a lot more of core foundational movements, started to use a lot more hammer strength equipment, really started to work on my back thickness, went to town, more importantly, on my side delts. I actually, in 2006, in the winter, before I actually started dieting for that show from the Nationals in 2006, I actually went and saw Dorian Yates, and he really helped me with some movements. So we ended up really focusing on bringing up my medial delts, and also I did a back workout with him. We ended up bringing up my back. So I worked on doing a lot of pullovers that year, really worked on heavily. This is the big one. I really worked heavily on bent over rows, pronated grip. Didn't really like the underhand grip, but worked on pronated grip overhand rows. Preferably, what I was doing back then wasn't so much the original bent over row, it was more to do with the Yates row, and I really connected well with that. But I devoted that exercise to really bringing up my back thickness for the following year. So basically ended up doing a lot more upper chest work, side delt work, really worked on my back development, did a lot of rack pulls, did a lot of T-bar row, as I already mentioned, bent over barbell rows, did a lot of hammer strength one-arm rows, unilateral style. I can also remember I did a lot more free weight exercises for arms. Didn't do a lot of machines that year. Actually, I can remember doing a lot more close grip. I was doing a lot more close grip bench presses as well. So, and more importantly, as always, it doesn't work well if the nutrition isn't there and the recovery is there. However, I was training, anywhere between 8 to 11 clients a day. I was working in the city as a personal trainer. So while I was in my off season, I was working really, really hard to pay the mortgage and to put food on the table. Now you might be asking, how many days did I train per week? Back then, if I really look at my journals, it was probably anywhere between 3 to 4 times a week. I used to really love training the whole body back then over 10 days. I realized this in 2004 when I really had a bad placing at Nationals, and at the same show, UK BFF British Finals 2004, ended up placing last place in the middleweights. So I already knew that I had to really look at my training and revamp everything, because I actually thought about quitting. So anyway, fast forward, off season 2006 was well underway. I remember every Thursday driving to my coach My mentor Harold at the time, every Thursday, he was in Crawley and I was in southeast London. So it was about a 2.5 hour drive every Thursday. And I did that all throughout the off season. And I really think that was a catalyst to me winning my pro card that year. Anyway, fast forward to the prep. The prep went really well because I ended up doing a show 3 weeks before the Britain. I ended up doing the same qualifier I did in 2005 when I beat Paul Delahaye. And in 2006 I did the Leamington Spa again, qualifier, and I won it again. And it was only, I think it was about 5 competitors competing in the heavies. So I won that. And then we decided pretty much that whole prep going into the Leamington Spa and into the Britain that I didn't do a lick of cardio. Not to impress you by any means, but I really worked on that year. I can remember like it was yesterday. I did a lot of posing. I really worked diligently on my posing, probably from about 20 weeks out from the Leamington Spa. And I think that really contributed towards the hardness and the separation and the detail that I had in my muscles. But I didn't do any cardio, interestingly enough. Anyway, I ended up looking probably my best ever condition. And on the day, October 6, I believe, 2006, I remember weighing in, getting there nice and early. The whole time, I got there about 3 days before. I drove from London to Nottingham, and the whole way driving up, I was so calm and I was so serene. And I think I wanted to bring that to your attention. So if you are a competitor or you're looking to get into phenomenal shape, increased muscularity, your calmness of mind is one of the most important variables. Get in control of this, because whatever you impress in the mind is going to be expressed through the body. So I was so calm, the calmest I've ever been. I remember for a whole year visualizing the announcer, who at the time was named Julian Franstein. He was the mic man, and I would remember him visualizing him saying my name, that I would win the heavyweight. So off we go to Nottingham. I'm in the car, I drive up to Nottingham, get there 3 days before the show, and Harold gets there the next day. So I get into my hotel, which was the Hilton Hotel, which is around the corner from the place where we competed in Nottingham. It was somewhere in Nottingham anyway, but the hotel was down the road, the Hilton. So Harold came to see me the next day in the morning, and he took a look at me. I stripped off, he had a look, hit some shots, and he was like, "You're going to be hard to beat, man, you're in condition." And I was probably weighing about 227, 226 when I weighed in on the day. So let's fast forward the next day. Waking up in the morning, looked in the mirror, felt I was in my best condition ever. Was very calm, very confident. Got to the weigh-ins, saw a few of the heavyweights that I was competing against come in. Pat Warner came in, Zach Khan came in. I knew Zach looked phenomenal because he looked as big as ever, because I knew he was working with Dorian. I actually saw some photos of, if I remember rightly, of Zach Khan about 3 weeks out, because he was training with Dorian at Temple, and Zach looked unbelievable. He looked big, he looked hard, so I knew he was going to be one of the favourites to win that year in the heavyweights. So, and then Zach comes in, looks big. I'm covered up, got my hoodie on, very similar to what I'm wearing right now. Had my baseball cap on. I remember James Flex Lewis came in. We were already friends, so we had a bit of banter, talking about how we're going to beat one another and all that kind of good stuff. Anyway, get back to the hotel, relax, eat some food, have a nap and so forth. Then the day of the show, carb load went great. It was in my dehydration phase, felt great. Had a good breakfast that day. On the day of the show, good fat, good protein, and then headed to the arena and got there nice and early as one of the first ones there. And being that we were the super heavies, we were always on last, so I knew it was going to be a long day. Anyway, pre-judging went really well, got first call out. It was me and Pat Warner and Zach Khan got first call out. I knew I looked good, I knew I was on, but I knew I wasn't as big as Zach. I think Zach outweighed me by 45 pounds, something ridiculous like that. Maybe less, maybe more. But anyway, he was a lot bigger than me, but I felt I was in superior condition. So all three of us got first call out, and then the pre-judging was done. So I went back to the hotel. Everyone came up to me. I was walking back through the arena, and they were telling me it's close between you and Zach, but they felt as though I was winning. So I was pretty confident up until that point, but a little bit of doubt seeped into my mind. I think my problem as a pro, and even as an amateur, top amateur, I really didn't believe in myself. And if you're listening right now and you're thinking, You want to be a good athlete, you want to be a good father, you want to be a good work colleague, whatever the goal is, you got to work on your belief system. So you got to work on your mindset. And I wish I knew the things I knew now. It would have really helped me to continue on in my bodybuilding journey. Anyway, that's easy to say now. So I knew it was going to be close between me and Zach. I knew that. And I felt that they were going to go for the bigger guy. I don't know why, but I had a good chat with Harold, and he pulled me aside and said, listen, you brought your best, just show up and let the judges judge you. So he came back in the evening show, and as you know, if you watch the tape back, I'll put the video while I'm talking here, and you'll see that I knew it was close between me and Zach, and they announced me as the winner. Zach got second. I was over the moon. I cried like a little girl. But I knew there was one more event to come, and that was the overall. And I had a good feeling that James already took that, because he already had a WADA contract, and he was being portrayed as the next big thing in England, similar to what Dorian Yates had when he turned pro. So I felt, even though now I've got Zach out of the way, now it's Flex Lewis. So I felt that they were going to give it to Flex because he had all the energy, he had the WADA contract, he had the fan base. So I knew though that Flex hadn't matured yet. He was still very young. I think at the time he must have been like 21, 22. I was 28 when I turned pro. So we're both fairly young, but I knew that he was going to be up there. The overall happened. It was me, Flex Lewis, and one guy in the middleweights, and excuse me, I can't remember their names, and the lightweight. We're all in the overall, right? And we're at the top of the stage. The stage you had two levels. You had the top level and you had the bottom level. So we're at the top level, and the judges get me and Flex to stand together, and then we do our quarter turns and our mandatory poses, and then they announce that we have a winner. So I'm there, breathing heavy. You know what? This is the only thing I can remember. I can't remember much about the whole day, but I remember looking at the ground and just waiting, and there was a dead silence in the crowd when Julian Franstein was just about to announce the winner, and he took a long pause too, so it made it even more dramatic. So as I'm waiting to hear who's going to win, I'm hearing the audience say my name, and I'm hearing people say Flex, and it's going Troy and Flex, Flex and Troy, and then he announced my name, Troy Brown. And that moment I just froze. I didn't know what to do. I just put my hands on my head and I walked away, and then came back and I gave Flex a big hug and the other guys a big hug. And I wanted to tell you this story because I really believe that my win at Nationals and beating Flex Lewis was sort of the catalyst to help him get to the next level. You see, every champion loses. Every good champion loses, and they take that defeat and they look at how they can get better. And that's exactly what I did the year before when I lost to Paul Delahaye in the Nationals. When he got his pro card, I wanted to get better. I knew what did I need to do in order to make my physique better, to 10x my results. So I knew I had to go back to the gym and look at my movement patterns and reassess my nutrition, reassess my supplementation, reassess my anabolics. I had to reassess everything. So I kind of went back to the drawing board with my coach, Harold. And I didn't listen to anybody except what he had to say. Everyone else, what they thought was irrelevant. All I cared about was what Harold said, because he was already a pro. He obviously knew what he's talking about. He got many athletes in stage ready. He's already got a lot of first place wins under his belt as a coach. So I trusted him because I was already working with him 3 years prior to that. So the reason why I'm telling you this is that my win at the time, I think it gave Flex more of a kick up his butt to coming even better the following year in 2007. As you know, he won the overall, got his pro card, and the rest is history. Ended up becoming 7-time Mr. Olympia, probably one of the best bodybuilders of all time. And I really believe that my story with Flex was a foundation to allow him to become one of the best in the world too. And to add to that, he's done a phenomenal job. He's a gym owner. He owns the gym called the Dragon's Lair in Las Vegas. It's a very successful gym. He has a phenomenal podcast that's doing really, really well. He has a lot of great guests on there. And who knows, maybe one day he might offer me to come on there. We can talk about this story in more detail. But I really felt that when I won that day, it really, I think, basically from what I understand, is Flex took it really hard and he really wanted to come in his all-time best the next year, and he certainly did that. Here's the thing, I knew that I could beat Flex Lewis. I didn't think I could beat Zach Khan because he was just too big, but I knew I could take Flex, and the reason why is because he was young. He hadn't matured yet. I knew he had these world-class legs, but I knew that he hadn't filled out his upper body yet. So I knew that if the judges were going to put it in regards to more maturity, I had maybe 7 more years on Flex of training. So I knew that they were probably going to put me in, provided my conditioning was good, that they were going to give me the win. So that's what I felt from an intuition standpoint. So anyway, that's the story of how I beat the legend, Mr. Flex Lewis, Welsh Dragon, they call him, from the Valleys in Wales. And now he's an icon in the sport. And I just wanted to share my story and what I did, and how my win, I believe, really started and kick-started his career. We all know what he's been able to do and how he's been able to become one of the best of all time with his 7 Olympia wins in the 212, and also, if I believe rightly, he's also won the first Arnold Classic 212 as well. So he has a phenomenal story and a long history. He's been doing it a long time. I think he's competed very, very young, and he's only just retired very recently. So Flex, I respect you for all you've done for the sport, but more importantly, what you've done in terms of as a businessman, as an entrepreneur. Super successful. You've got the right people around you, and yeah, I'm just a fan of what you do, brother. But anyway, that's it for me. Let me know your feedback. Did you resonate with this story? Can you remember what happened back then in 2006? Were you around? Were you reading the magazines back then? Feel free to comment below, hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll be sharing more stories with you about my past and also about my present future as well. Have a good day. Take care. Governor. Cheerio.